It is amazing. The smiles on their face, the smiles in the audience, when the parents see them, but not just the parents, the other attendees love seeing the little kids, and they're just pretty much wowed by it. And the kids just have a wonderful experience.
The Lincoln Symphony Orchestra in Lincoln, Nebraska is a professional ensemble that is dedicated to creating a love of live orchestral music for the people of southeastern Nebraska. Audience members, young and old, are captivated by the group's enchanting sound, but the love for music doesn't just come from sitting in the audience. It can also come from working with the musicians themselves.
Here's what we hope. We hope it inspires them, right? Just being on the lead center stage is inspirational. When you think about a place to perform is such a fabulous venue. So that's inspiring all the way.
Or even by performing with the professional troupe.
They will perform to a literal sold-out house at the Lead Center. So it's a real jolt of excitement and adrenaline to someone who maybe wants to be a performer.
For young musicians in Lincoln, there's plenty of opportunities through LSO to grow in their musicianship and appreciation for music. But the youth outreach doesn't stop on the stage. The Symphony finds ways to teach students about music through their young people's concerts. Each year, LSO invites 5,000 teachers and students from the Lincoln area to experience live orchestral music.
So one of the first experiences of a live symphony orchestra that a lot of kids have is through our annual Young People's Concerts. And every year we work with Lincoln Public Schools and with several other parochial schools and schools within about a 75-mile radius. And we bring about 5,000 kids to the Lead Center. And the curriculum is such, we work with Carnegie Hall's Link Up program, that the kids can learn the songs ahead of time, either to sing or to play on the recorder, and then they come and they sing or play these songs together with the orchestra.
By collaborating with Lincoln Public Schools music programs for 4th through 6th graders, students can better understand rhythm, harmony, melody, and other musical elements. They also learn about the composers and the era of the music that's being performed at the Young People's Concert. Lincoln Symphony Orchestra Executive Director Barbara Zock-Lee says that there is incredible value in music either through performing or observing.
It's really special, and we hope to develop lifelong audience members even if they don't become musicians later in life.
Those benefits also carry into other aspects of these students' lives. By hearing classical music, listening skills are improved, creativity spikes, and overall brain function is boosted. In fact, students who are involved in music are 24% more likely to graduate high school, according to Merritt School of Music in Chicago.
It's all about inspiring them, whether they will become musicians as adults or not, whether it will become their vocation or just an avocation, or whether they'll come and be audience members someday. Having that love for music and having that just be kindled by a professional musician.
On the stage, student musicians have several ways they can perform with the symphony. One holiday favorite is Deck the Halls, LSO's December concert, where Suzuki students are invited to play alongside the professionals. The Suzuki method believes that anyone can learn to play an instrument, and it reflects during the concert, where beginner students and advanced players can come together to spread holiday cheer through music.
We feature the Suzuki strings, and so they're kids from as tiny as, they sit on these tiny little cello chairs, to teenagers who've been taking Suzuki, and the piece that we have arranged has some basic parts for the kids who are just beginning, to some descant parts that the older kids can play. And so they all come out, I think 80 of them, and they stand in a big group in front of the orchestra and they play this piece together with the orchestra.
We have a melody part that is more at an beginner to intermediate level, and then we have a descant part or harmony part that's harder for the older students who have played for a lot longer. And our ages range from 4 to 18, honestly.
The recital comes together rather quickly, as there is only one rehearsal with the entire 140-piece orchestra.
And that's the only time they get to play with the symphony, but we have a recording that we work with so that the kids are prepared for what they're going to hear.
Lisa Myers is a violinist for the symphony as well as a Suzuki instructor for both violin and piano.
Beautiful.
By performing in the Deck the Halls concert and teaching some of the young performers, Myers gets to see both sides of this annual partnership between several Suzuki studios in Lincoln and LSO. And she knows just how much preparation it can take.
We have a great time. The kids love the experience. It's awe-inspiring to them.
Fourth grader Sydney has taken violin with Myers since she was 7, but started taking piano when she was only 3 years old.
That's one of the things we do in the Suzuki
Yeah,
world is
right.
we start them young.
That's awesome. Just 6 days before Sydney performs on the lead center stage, she arrives to her lesson with a violin and bow decorated in red and green for the big day. Sydney will get to show off her ornamented violin with nothing in her way, as she's expected to have all of her concert music memorized.
Okay, what comes first?
I don't know what does come first.
You know this.
Okay.
You do. Joy to the world.
Myers isn't the only musician in the symphony who also teaches privately, and concerts like Deck the Halls only strengthens the connection between professional musicians and the Lincoln community.
Almost all of our musicians, I want to say like 90% of them, are music educators. So they either teach private studios or they teach lessons or they teach in the public schools or at the college level. And so they all really value this moment where these students get to come on stage and play with the orchestra. And it's just a very special thing for parents too and for the kids.
And it's something that every musician looks forward to every year.
I had one parent tell me, oh, my child wanted to quit violin last year. And they kept going because they wanted to play on Deck the Halls with the symphony. And so that was the thing that kept motivating them to practice and to keep taking lessons.
Even for people who have experienced the concert since it began almost 20 years ago.
The biggest moment I can always remember, and it comes every year, is a particular spot in the opening of the orchestral part where it gets really loud really suddenly and the kids all kind of jump even though they know it's coming. There we go.
Once the holiday concert is over and the Suzuki students are back to playing their undecorated instruments, another group of student musicians in Lincoln is preparing to play with the Lincoln Symphony Orchestra in the spring. The annual side-by-side concert allows members of the Lincoln Youth Symphony to play alongside the professionals and maybe even get a glimpse of what their future might look like as a musician.
And so each youth symphony member sits next to a professional musician. And it's a really special experience for them to be able to not only be inspired, but to sit and talk to someone who's doing this job professionally and to have some conversation about what it could look like and what it could mean.
In fact, it's not uncommon for several of the youth musicians to eventually play in professional orchestras.
It's a really inspiring and wonderful thing for these students to have the opportunity to play on a stage with a professional orchestra.
And then if I keep going, we'll keep going, and then you take the coda.
Clark Potter is the music director for the Youth Symphony and helped start this collaboration around 15 years ago.
We wanted to collaborate for quite a while on doing something where the younger students would be able to play alongside the pros. And so eventually the symphony made that happen, the Lincoln Symphony made that happen, and they approached me about how we might do that.
The Youth Symphony consists of about 80 players in grades 9 through 12 and is an audition-only program, creating a pre-professional environment for the students. A program like the Lincoln Youth Symphony is hardly ever free, but with the help of Lincoln Public Schools, high school students can learn from professionals who have played all around the world at no cost.
It's a great deal, and I think for some of them, they may never go to a Lincoln Symphony concert. Some of them may not be able to afford one, even though prices are low, but Our students don't pay a penny to play in the Lincoln Youth Symphony, which is fabulous and unusual. So to provide them also with the opportunity to hear great music played by really fine musicians, yeah.
To prepare for the concert, LSO music director Ed Polachek pays a visit to a youth symphony rehearsal for a special masterclass along with a professional player from each section.
Like, you can learn a lot from just sitting and watching someone else learn and see different kinds of practice techniques or different kinds of interpretation guidelines, or, you know, all of those things that you can learn from a soloist. Not just the person who's playing can benefit from it. It's a really lovely way for our artists to come into Lincoln and contribute something special.
Polachek treats the students as if they were professionals in his orchestra.
He's demanding. He treats them like they're young professionals. He doesn't slow down the tempo. He doesn't do anything. He expects them to toe the line and do the work. So.
And just like Deck the Halls, the side-by-side concert audience loves seeing the future of orchestra musicians.
I think it could be potentially one of the most inspiring things that they do all year, really. It's exciting, it's loud, the people love it, the Lincoln Symphony audience just goes crazy for the kids. When the piece is over and Maestro Polachek just has the kids stand up, the place just goes nuts, because they figure out, wow, first of all, they're good, they can play. And so once, you know, the audience figures that out, then they're very, very appreciative and very, very proud. So it's fun.
For some musicians, this concert is only the beginning of a lifetime of performing live music.
There are probably 5 or 6 youth symphony musicians who are now members of LSO. And there are youth symphony musicians from even far back before I'm that are playing around the world, literally around the world in orchestras.
And some experience a full circle moment when they play with both the youth symphony and professional orchestra.
And several players who have done those side-by-sides with the youth symphony in the past have then grown up and become professional members of the orchestra 10 years later, 5 years later. And it's a really inspiring and wonderful thing for these students to have the opportunity to play on a stage with a professional orchestra.
Opportunities like these help kids gain confidence and reduce their anxiety, changing the stigma about performing live. But the Lincoln Symphony Orchestra isn't just interested in finding the newest professional. Zach Lee also hopes to encourage young people to support live music for the rest of their lives.
So there's just lots of examples of ways that students can be inspired by music from a very young age, and you never know how it will stick with you. You may grow up to be a really wonderful audience member, or a board member, or a donor to an orchestra, or someone who sits on the selection committee for artists who come in. You know, there are lots of different ways that people who love music can contribute to the fabric of a community.
In Lincoln, Elena Tomish, Nebraska News Service.